Home is a place.
No, no, no. Home is a feeling.
Home is my motherland.
It's more where you feel alive and inspired.
Well, I think we're talking about the same thing, aren't we? Home is where our story begins.
What's your story?
Homesick at Home every Friday from 9 to 10 p.m.
On Radio Van 103.1 with Ina MK
and Rina D.
Shot City, I'm coming home again.
Good evening, dear listeners of Radio Van. This is Homesick at Home, our English-speaking show. And we're excited. We're kind of nervous tonight in our studio. Hi, Rina.
Hello. I'm not nervous, are you?
A little bit.
Well, but let's say good evening to everybody, first of all, to our guests, to the listeners, and we'll figure out why Ina is kind of nervous tonight.
Because tonight in our studio, a renowned trainer and coach, legendary John King, and Sergey Tantushyan, Director of Extensions Programs at AUA, are here. Good evening. Welcome to Armenia.
Good evening.
Hi. What a pleasure to be here.
It's our pleasure to have you here.
So, how do you feel in this country so far?
You know what? I'm in love with Armenia.
Already?
Wow.
I am in love. I am coming back, you know, and I'm even thinking of maybe moving here for a couple of months just to experience it.
You said that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, yes, I said that.
Okay.
I said that.
And
But
everything
you know,
is being recorded.
Well, the thing is that I'm here, but I feel like I'm with my family.
Amazing.
And the weather here is very much like where I live. I live in New Mexico, and so it's very dry and very arid, and this time of year it's like this and everything. I arrived and it was like immediately.
And it was
I-
like, welcome
Feels
home.
like home.
You know, it was welcome home, because when I was driving in, we were coming in and the horns were honking and the people are going, "Welcome, John King." Welcome, John King.
Yeah, this is...
So I just, you know, I'm having a great time.
And I had to disappoint him that it's just a little revolution that we're
Yeah,
having.
what the heck? I don't even think it is a revolution. I think it was a renaissance.
Why did you do that, Sergey? Okay. Okay, let's first introduce to our listeners who you guys are, what you do, and why did you choose Armenia as a platform for your workshop?
Well, I met Sergey at a leadership training a year ago. Yeah, in Bulgaria. And when I met him and I saw him, I saw, this guy's a teacher. He's really good. And so we kind of hit it off. And I thought, well, maybe I could train him to do what I do. I do something called tribal leadership. I grew up in Native American communities. My father was a geologist, so I grew up in a Hopi village. And so I just saw that there was something about him that I wanted somebody in the region. I love this region. And so I wanted somebody in the region that could speak it accurately and so on like that.
Something in your eyes.
Something in your eyes. Wow. Yeah. The Beatles.
It's the teacher.
Something in the way you walk. Exactly.
Keep going.
But so I looked, I thought, well, this is an opportunity. We got a guy who's a master teacher. And so I said, well, you know, maybe you'd like to learn this. And he said yes. And so we've been talking for a year on Skype. And thank you. And in the course of time, he proposed to me that maybe I come here. And so I went immediately, I've been wanting to come to Armenia for years. When I was when I lived in California, I was in show business for a number of years. And when I was in California, I lived in a town called Glendale, which is a completely Armenian community, you know. And so I used to go to the little cafe in the morning, and the old men would be drinking coffee and talking about the genocide and, you know, and all of this sort of stuff. And I didn't understand it, but I studied it a little bit. And from that moment, I wanted to, you know, meet more Armenians and come into Armenia. And I decided that I'm actually Armenian. You know, so
ABC, Armenian by choice.
well,
This is
Armenian
very
by choice. Yeah.
exciting.
Well, you know, because my name is John King. That you would know me, but I'm John King. I'm an Albuquerquean, So that's my Armenian part.
Very interesting.
Thank you for this warm introduction. Now let's ask Sergey. What do you do?
I am the director of extension at AUA, American University of Armenia, and what we do three things, three directions in terms of training. It's professional development training, and in the scope of that direction, we invited John to be here in Armenia and deliver his tribal leadership training. The second direction is the languages, whatever language you can think of, and the third one is test preparation. So this is our training kind of direction. And then the third one, we administer tests, all tests that you can think of, starting from USMLE and to TOEFL, GREs, and all that stuff. But, as I said, what I'm here for and why we invited John is the professional development training that is, by the way, taking place tomorrow at AUA. It's a full day session that John is going to teach.
It'll be intense.
Yeah.
That's
I
why
bet.
Armenia is perfect, because you're very intense and emotional people. It's perfect.
We're ready.
We're talking about tribal leadership. Can
Yes.
we just talk about what that exactly means?
Sure. I taught at the University of Southern California for a number of years, and I did a lot of corporate training. And one of the things that I noticed was that there was a particular way that people at various levels of productivity and effectiveness talked, and the way that they related to each other in relationship. And the more I looked at it, the more I saw that inside the corporation there are different tribes. And there are tribes of people who talk in different ways. There's 5. I actually did a longitudinal study for 9.5 years, about 25,000 people. Wow. And I didn't know what I was looking for, but when I took the data and I sliced it and diced it, I found out that in an ascending order of effectiveness, there are people who are what we call undermining, and these are people who say life sucks. And they're actually not very many, maybe 3% of the population, and basically criminals. The next level up, though, is you and me on a bad day. And on the bad day, it's not that life sucks, it's my life sucks. I can see that life works, I can see that your life works, and if I had your curly hair, my life would work. But I don't, so my life sucks. So, and these people at stage 2 are in relationship, and they're being dominated by people at stage 3 who go, I'm great and you're not, and I have the statistics to prove it. So they're working on and well, no wonder my life sucks, because you're doing I'm great. And what I saw was that there's a category of people that are highly productive and are getting lots and lots done at stage 4. And there are people who are saying we're great and they're not. So in our company, we would have little groups, and if we could get them all on the same page, and we can get them doing something that instead of being in a zero-sum game, they're in a non-zero, and they're collaborating and cooperating with one another. They are at we're great, and then there are people who are making history, and the people that are making history are life is great. So I found out they actually talk this way. If you net out how they talk, they're actually across the kind of the spectrum of corporate culture. And the more I looked at it, the more I thought, you know what? We can move people from one culture to another if we have an intelligent conversation with them about, have them see where they're stuck because of the way they talk and by the way they connect with one another, the way that they are in relationship with one another. So that was one of the insights that I had. And and then a whole world of interesting observations and insights came out of that became the book Tribal Leadership. And the book, who knew? The book became a #1 bestseller, and still is actually in the top 50 of all business books. And so, who knew?
Great.
You know, I didn't. I'm just a guy who just noticed that and wrote it down.
And who knew that I would ever interrupt Mr. King for an advertisement break?
Okay, stay tuned.
Stay-
We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Rena, make yourself at home.
But Ina, Yerevan is already my home.
But I mean Radio Van.
You mean a home within a home?
Homesick at Home on Radio Van 103.1. Join us every Friday. Homesick at Home. We are back in our studio, exciting to learn many good things because our guest is John King. And for those of you who just tuned in and haven't heard about John King, we will remind that he's a renowned trainer and coach and legendary person
And a personal
of
friend
all
of
times.
Cher's.
And of course, our second guest is Sergey Tantushyan. Sorry,
You keep on forgetting me. Like, well, but it's
so-
okay because we
okay,
have
I will-
John here.
Oh, it's all
Yeah.
about me.
It's all
And I
right.
have a question for you, Sergey.
Yes.
What do you do now, and how did you manage to make John come to Armenia?
Well, torture,
what's the secret?
Oh, it was hard.
What's the
Well,
secret of the
actually, it's
success?
not only me. It's not only me who made John come here. It's Triad.
That guy at the coffee shop in Glendale, right?
Well, I mean, it's a complex, set of steps that we had. The guy and so on. But like the final 3 steps were done by me at the American University, extension. The second participant in this crime is Triada Plus. It's a company of my friends who are organizing trainings, have a successful track record of trainings already organized. Michael Cooley was here, Mark Young was here, and so on. And HR Association of Armenia.
Total rock stars.
So it's a triad, which is 3 participants, and according to John's theory, triads are the most stable structures, right? So it takes just 3 to balance each other out and to be effective. So this is a perfect implementation of his theory, actually. But as John said, we met in Bulgaria, and there was a natural kind of synthesis because he teaches communication, leadership, and strategy. I teach communication and strategy. Now I'm getting trained for his leadership theories. So I mean, I think it was a perfect coincidence, let's call it so.
So tomorrow,
Yes,
who can join? And
you. I want to see your smiling face.
I'm very interested, actually, the way you started and
Well,
you introduced the topic.
This is for people who are interested in the inner work of leadership. This is for people who would actually like to take themselves to the next level in culture and to become what I call a cultural architect. In other words, someone who can design the cultures around them and then lead into that. And so if people are interested in that, it's not about the age. It's not even about your certifications or your education.
Or qualifications.
It's about, is this something that you're actually authentically interested in? If you are, we're going to engage in this not as a question and answer and not as a lecture, but as an inquiry. And so we'll be inquiring into what is the nature of leadership, what is the nature of culture, what is the nature of strategy, and then together we're going to invent the answer out of this.
Very interesting.
Mr. King, what kind of outcome do you expect from Armenia?
We're here at a historic time. I just think it's a privilege to be here during these historic times because this is a country that has such a rich and mature history going back thousands of years. And what I think we are in is I think we're in an inflection point in your history where we're moving to whatever the next unfolding is. And so there's Martin Heidegger said, you're accomplishing something here. And he said, accomplishment is something that lives in the moment of speaking and then unfolds into the fullness of its essence. And what I hear being spoken is freedom. And what I hear is not only the personal freedom, but the freedom for the homeland and for the motherland.
Right.
And what my expectation is, I think this is going to be a completely different country in the next 5 or 6 years. And I'm excited to be here kind of at the birth of the next part of it. So outcomes, I think it's going to be uncomfortable before it becomes comfortable. Mm-hmm. But that's the same, imagine that the caterpillar is becoming a butterfly.
Oh, I love that
So
story.
it's going through the discomfort of working its way out. But if you try and make it easy for the caterpillar, then the caterpillar can't fly. It'll never be able to fly. So it has to struggle. And I think that's what Armenia has to do. I think you have to struggle with the big ideas of freedom and the big ideas of what's our next expression. And I know that this is a culture that has existed for going back almost 3,000 years. And so I know you're strong, and I know that you're getting ready to fly to another level.
Very
Thank
interesting.
you. Thank you.
I like that story about
I
the
just made
cocoon.
it up. That's another thing why I love is like everywhere I've gone that I run into Armenians, I run into a sense of humor. It's like works for me.
Sense of humor saves a lot of times from difficult situations.
Yes, absolutely.
So you train leaders. What are the challenges?
Mostly something I call a category error. Most people think that what you've got to do is get others to agree with you for what you're doing. And that's going to be the struggle that Armenia is going to go through right now and in the streets and so on like that, is there's a whole lot of pulling for agreement on my opinion, my assessment, my point of view. It's not agreement. What we want is we want to get aligned on some common goals so that we can build a future together. So as long as we're going for agreement, we're going to argue and we're going to fight. But as soon as we have the insight that it's about alignment, I'll give you an example. When my daughter was very young, my wife, who was a child psychologist and whose father was a pediatrician, and so she knew about raising children, had certain ideas about how to raise the child. I was a hippie. And so I thought, if you just pour water on her head, she'll grow up and she'll be fine, So my wife and I were arguing about this because we couldn't agree. And it was becoming threatening to our marriage. And then one day, like something coming through the ceiling, we had an insight. And the insight was, it's not about our agreement. It's what can we align on that we want our daughter to be when she's 18 years old. And the second that we became aligned on the future for our daughter, suddenly it was okay for my wife to be very structured, and it was okay for me to be a mess, like that. And my daughter turned out.
Interesting.
So what are the first steps of finding this mutual?
Well, the first step is noticing what a jerk you are. I was saying that in the nicest way. But there's probably some magical word in Armenian that equivalent of jerk.
Oh, there are many.
Yeah, I bet you have a lot. But no, so there's 4 steps. Okay, the first step is realizing and noticing. It's called noticing. Noticing, in this case, noticing what's not working and where you're being stuck in your point of view and where your beliefs are like critically important and so on like that. Once you really fully notice that, you start to notice the cost of it. When you notice the cost of it, the second step, which is the hard step, is letting go. Yeah. Letting go of everything that is sacred, because that's my life and that's who I am, and that sort of thing. But once you effectively let go of those beliefs and those practices that are keeping you stuck, then you can go to the third step, which is transcendence. You can actually transcend that, and then you can bring it back. Joseph Campbell says, return. the return of the hero. So you can bring it back, and you can bring it back to your community, and you can share it with your community. So those 4 steps: noticing, letting go, transcending, and then reintegrating. That's the steps.
Thank you.
You mentioned something about show business.
Yes.
I'm interested to know more. I'm sure a lot of others.
Yeah, other people were doing things that were actually worthwhile. But what I was a dancer. Now that was 50 kilos ago, back when Jesus was a tiny baby. And so I wanted to be a dancer. So I was the national champion ballroom dancer with my sister, and we won 7 or 8 national championships. And I really wanted to dance. So when I got out of the Army, I took my wife, who was a dancer also, and we went to Hollywood. And I started working on a musical variety show called The Carol Burnett Show. And so I worked on that, and then I toured around the world with people who were stars, and did dancing for a long time. And in the course of that, I learned how to put shows together, and I learned how to write shows, and I learned how to produce, like that. So my show business career, these are the lost years.
So how easy was it, or what happened that you kind of changed
You
route?
can't do it. It's not possible. The only, somebody once said something about you can't understand history as it's unfolding, but you can only understand it as you look back on it, like that. And I was just interested in that. And so I did that until we have an expression, going over the hill. That means I can no longer dance well. So then I retired, and then I was in trouble. I cried because I really love dancing. But what I did was I met a person who said, dancers are mutes. They don't talk. You may have noticed. But I met someone who actually trained me to lead transformational programs. And I did that for a number of years. And then in the course of that, I met a fellow who was a professor at the university. He was one of my students. And I trained him, and then he invited me to come over and address his classes. And just somehow the president of the university happened to be in the room, and he went, "Oh, we'll keep King," like that. So I taught at that university for 13 years. So dancer who is a mute, and a mime, to a seminar leader, to a college professor. And then I stopped doing that about 7 years ago. And now just kind of a itinerant leadership trainer.
Sergey, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Can you name 5 things you earned from
John?
Yeah.
Well, the first is, the categorization. So John mentioned category error. Basically, I think it's a beautiful concept. I just don't want to spoil it, because tomorrow you're going to listen about
They'll
it.
forget. You can say it.
We're teasing.
Yeah.
That's different.
So there are 3 categories in everything, as John says. The first category is aesthetics, or the beautiful. The second one is morals and beliefs, right? And the third one is the science. And, the disagreement happens when, or like the problems happen when we just confuse between the categories, right? So, for example, we want agreement on something that is aesthetics, right? It's in the eye of the beholder, right? And so that's where the conflict. So this categorization, when you start thinking about things from the categories point of view, it becomes much more structured, much more easier. And that's what I love about this theory, that, it's a structure which applies to life, right? So this is one. The second one I loved is the tribal leadership concept as such, and the 5 stages of different people, 5 tribes. And I actually loved it so much that I'm writing a book, a children's book.
This is genius. This is genius.
Children's book.
On it,
It
yeah.
is brilliant.
So whatever interesting concept I hear, I try to teach it to my kids, because they are the biggest critics. They are they are the biggest best criteria for your efficiency, how you teach. And so I tried teaching these 5 stages of people to my kids, and they didn't understand that, which means I didn't teach it well, right? So I went back and I started drawing because I was in art
Nice.
when I was young too.
Interesting. Yeah.
At
Good
4 I
idea.
had my personal exhibition.
Sign
and
of
so
a
on.
wasted youth.
And so I started drawing, and it became a story of my dog, Volt, who is escaping from home, and he's lost in the city, and he's meeting 5 types of dogs, 5 dogs, right? And he has conversations with them and so on. And I'm working on it. It's still in the making. So, that's how much I love that one. The third one, I think, is the questions that John is asking, and it's like a mantra. What is the mantra, John? Who, what, who, what?
Who, what?
Yeah.
Who am I? Who are my partners? What am I building? Who do I touch? And what difference does it make?
Wow.
And so on. I can, monopolize this conversation, which I don't want. So I named 3. For the rest to come to AUA tomorrow.
Okay, we will. That was an intrigue.
Nice, reel them in.
So, Mr. King, Sergey spoke
Call
about
me John,
his...
please call me John.
Okay,
'cause
John.
My father, who is dead,
What if-
was Mr. King.
What if we call you John?
Yeah, call me. You know what? That's very interesting. My children and my grandchildren and my nieces and nephews call me John the Leprechaun.
Oh, really? So, Sergey told you what John means here in Armenia?
No, I don't.
No?
John.
It means like deer.
Deer.
John,
It means
John.
deer.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so happy because it means toilet.
Oh, no.
It's like you get up in the morning and you go to the John. No, I decided that I would change the name of my toilet to Jim, so I go to the gym.
Or Jack. Okay, so John, how do you apply the knowledge that you give in your personal life?
Very ineffectively, I'm afraid. Mostly, it's all about relationship. All about relationship, and it's about the quality of our relationship. So mainly, what I know is that there's a myth about power. I talk about power a lot because you do leadership, and so it gets equated to that. And what I discovered is that there actually is no power inherent in the person. So there's no power over here, there's no power over there. The only time that there's any access to power is when we're connected. This is the symbol of the handshake. So when we shake hands, the power is residing in that. And because we're social beings, there's really nothing that we can or do accomplish by ourselves. I know people think they do, but that's incorrect. It's a category error. And so what I'm interested in is who can I touch? And is it making a difference? That's the most important.
Well, can I ask another question? Because, we speak a lot about people having a certain energy around them and
Yes.
aura and things like
Auras,
this.
yes, okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So, can we say that it is a certain power that they possess, or is it a result of interaction with others at the end of the day? So
The
what is
interesting thing is if you sit alone or you're in a cave and you're meditating and everything, you have no access. You can have all the insights in the world, and those insights plus, a few dollars will buy you a cup of coffee. That's about it. Like that. The only time that I have an effective exercise of that is in my relationship, in my connection with other people. So, we don't marry the person that we don't have a connection with. We marry the person that we have a connection. And the connection is at the level of our values. So it's not about, I like your hair and it's like you have great nails. Okay, I got it with the nails and something like that. But that wouldn't be why we would form our relationship. We would form the relationship because there's merit in the value that I experience when I'm with you. And it's a kind of a bank account. We meet, merit, 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 merit. And we're building up an account with one another until we really see that the value proposition is in something that is between us. And if we can add someone else in, that stabilizes it.
A mutual account.
You betcha.
Yeah.
You betcha.
A question I'd like to ask both of you. How did you earn your first salary?
How could you?
Because that was her question.
I just did
How
it.
did you earn your first salary?
Well, I remember it, and it was, I'm a product of Soviet Union, right? And so, and my grandmother used to, whenever she sees business or any, she saw business because she's not with us anymore, but she was very. She was disgusted by the money making concept because she was a communist,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. All our parents
She
have
would
this.
gossip about this, our relative who does business, and this is such a shameful thing, and so on. So, and this is, what I grew up with. And we were at an exhibition. My cousin is a very talented painter, and there was a guy. I think he was either British or American. He spoke English, and he was lost, and I helped him. I translated what the paintings titles were and so on, and he gave me $5. And I was so shocked, and I was ashamed, and I was like, okay, but
Where do I
and
hide
he
it? Where do I
disappeared,
hide
and there I'm standing with my $5. And my grandmother was shocked, and she was ashamed, and she was like, I'm a failure, But that was my first salary, basically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I remember it until
That
it made you
explains a lot.
feel that way, I can't relate to what you're saying. I can understand it because
Right.
I grew up overseas. I was born in Syria. I grew up in Australia, but I do understand what that feels
Right,
like.
yeah.
Very different.
Yeah, for me, now that you say this, Sergey, I realize now that my first boss was a communist too because he paid me very little. But I was, my parents were very interested that their children be trained in service. And so I went to work at a dry cleaning plant. And so I served the customers, and I was, I think, 13 or something like that. And I earned a very small salary, but I felt very proud of myself. I remember what I wanted to do was save up for when I was 17 years old, I'd buy a car. And every few months I'd go, okay, I have a steering wheel now. And I'd save my money. And okay, there's the tires, and that sort of thing. But it really was, it wasn't about the money, and it's not about the money to this day. It's about the relationships, and it's about touching people, and it's about making a difference. And that's what I learned from my first job.
What do you mean touching people? Can we explain a
So,
little bit to our listeners?
so that they are somehow left better. So my company is called John King Partners. It has nothing to do with business. It has to do with the experience of a partner for me as somebody that I've touched or they've touched me. And that we've had an experience. I was talking about mutual benefit. So that's my criteria, is I'll walk away from here and I'll have 2 more partners. And, and there's something about that we may or may not see each other again in life. We probably will if I come back here, and I will come back. But that's not what's important. What's important is in this moment, I'm getting something out of this, and you're getting something out of this that we are elevated by.
We surely are. We hope you do
Yes,
too.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's, I'd like to understand more about this. Let's say tomorrow after it's over.
Yes.
What is it that makes you feel that you have touched people? What do you see? What do you experience? What do they say?
They share.
Okay.
They during the course of the day, people will share their insights. They will see something. I work on the idea of that there are 3 major distinctions in our relationship. There's aha, there's duh, and there's wow. And so all day long, people will be going aha, and they've learned something. Or they'll be doing duh, which is I learned from my 12-year-old granddaughter who went duh. Dad, and then there's wow when something changes or shifts or something like that. So that's all we do is we do aha, duh, and wow all day.
Okay, I have a question to both of our guests. Are there any funny stories you could share with us about?
Now you did it this time.
Okay, sorry. About your experience
Funny stories.
working in this field.
Well, it hasn't been grim. I don't know about funny. You know, I really don't know. I mean, I was in show business and I was in musical comedy, show business, working with comedians and everything. So I wouldn't say that funny is a thing. And it's not funny peculiar. But there's something about funny. Okay.
Okay.
So there's 4 categories. Okay, like
Everything is categorized.
yeah, well,
I
there
like
are.
that.
Okay, so if you can imagine that kind of a box matrix, okay, in the upper left corner, there's fun and funny. Okay, all right. We know who those people are. We pay them a lot, and it's not you and it's not me. Okay, so hardly anybody is fun and funny. That's a very rare thing. Then in the upper right, there's funny. Okay, not as rare as fun and funny, not as rare, but we pay them a lot. We know who they are. And I will tell you from experience of being in show business, funny people are usually not very much fun. Okay. Then in the lower left quadrant is something called fun. Anybody can be that. You really have the intention to be fun and to bring fun to the thing. And the interesting thing is that if you will be fun, funny will show up. So a lot of funny things will show up. And then there's the 4th quadrant. And the 4th quadrant is called neither. Okay? Neither. And if you try to be either, you will be neither. Okay?
I like that.
So then that gives you the rules. This is the rules that I have for when I'm leading. Okay, so the first one is be fun. Okay. The second rule is if you can't be fun, be pleasant. And the third rule is if you can't be fun or pleasant, don't be a jerk.
Don't be.
I love the answer, but what was the question?
Because I was paying attention, my darling.
The question was about separate nutrition.
The question was, can you think of from your time when there was something funny moments?
Yes.
What about you, Sergey John?
Well, I think every day is funny for me and fun because, you know, I just have a horrible memory in terms of,
I
you know...
noticed that
Early onset
these last
Alzheimer's,
couple of
you know.
days.
Because I can't remember, you know, a story like that. It's just, you know, fun for me to learn this kind of stuff. And it's funny how I enjoy the process, you know. And I think it's happiness.
Yeah, I think that's something for you. You know what you're about. What I noticed about Sergey, and it's something where I was touched by him was that he likes to light people up. You know, he likes to find your pilot light. You know what I mean, pilot light.
No.
And he wants to turn up the pilot light. Okay, so his job is to light you up
Is to be
and then to pour
contagious.
gas on you.
Thank you. That sounds so nice.
Yeah.
And if you don't remember things, do you each time when you hear these things, is it like you hear it for the first time and you learn?
I mean, obviously it builds up.
I
you
don't
know?
think his memory is that
but
bad.
yeah,
You know?
builds up. But the experience is new and fun
I'm
all
just
the time.
joking.
And
Well,
that's
I
what's
will
funny
tell
about
you,
it.
the thing about him is that he actually can hide his own Easter eggs. That's about his memory.
But it's
Very short.
It's
memory.
more fun because he gets to enjoy them twice.
Each
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
more,
each
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like
Whereas
in that movie, the
others
first
go, oh,
50
I know
kisses.
that.
Yeah.
Or something.
I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
there. I've done that.
Yeah, the first 50 kisses. When you- each time, like the first one.
Yeah.
Okay, secret talents, right? Is this what you...
No, you
No?
can take this
Okay.
one.
So you said
Secret talent.
secret talent. Secret talent.
He's gonna categorize.
No, I'm looking at was secret talent. I'm not a specialist. I'm a generalist, and so I kind of have I don't do anything really, really well, but I do a lot of things kind of okay. my Pareto distribution in life is I can get it about 80% right, like that. So my secret talent is that I'm a generalist.
What about you?
Well, I revealed that secret. I draw.
There are 4 categories of secret.
You have the upper right corner.
No, I actually draw. I love drawing, and I just remembered. I said I have bad memory, but I remembered actually how to draw again with the tribal leadership concept. So that's a secret talent which I'm reliving now and remembering it.
You could say that. You know that one of the things about this is to have people rediscover themselves. Everything that I develop, every principle that I develop, everything that I work on, I have a beta group that I test it on. And my beta group is a group of about 300 12-year-old girls. Because that's the smartest thing on the planet. And they'll let you know right away. Because they will go, duh. And leave. You got that? So anything that has been vetted by 12-year-old girls and everything, that goes in if it works. And if it and my criteria is, can I teach it to you? And then you can teach it to her. You repackage it, put it in your own words, and teach it to her. She effectively implements it, and she teaches it to someone else. If we can take it and make it go out 3 generations, then I know we're on to something.
Very interesting.
And
I really want to go tomorrow.
I really want to have you there.
We'll see.
Really want to have you there, get you in the room, embarrass you. Nah.
Now I'm thinking about it.
No. I promise you, we have fun in the middle of revolutions. It's the way we work.
And speaking about you mentioned rediscovering yourself, right?
Yes.
Rediscovering. I would like to mention that this is the period we are in right now.
Exactly.
And we, people who went there, who participated in the protests, they will tell you for sure that they felt it inside and with their own skin that right here, right now, I have reinvented myself and my own nation. I don't know. These were exactly
Yes.
the emotions I personally experienced.
It's a very valid topic
Yeah,
right now.
it's totally the possibility
Yes.
that not only you, but your entire country is sitting in right now. It's
Yes.
like the question, it's an inquiry. We don't have an answer, but we can tease out a conversation that we can get aligned on called What's Next for Armenia?
Cool.
Yes, I'd like to ask a question since you travel a lot. And do you ever lose that sense of home? Where is home? What does it feel like?
That's funny. I was just sharing with Sergey a little bit earlier. I'm from New Mexico. I grew up in a little Indian village in northern Arizona called Oribe. It's a Hopi village. And I got my values there from the Native Americans. And then when it became time to go to school, we moved to Albuquerque. I lived there until we moved away. Then my wife and I and my daughter lived in California, a beautiful place, and had an extremely successful career there as a dancer and then as a producer and a writer. And I noticed 40 years later, people would say, "Where are you from?" And I would say, "Albuquerque." So I have that. It's like people who are in the diaspora, and I would talk to them, and it was always about their longing to return to Armenia and having that interest. That was why I knew I was Armenian, because I'm an Albuquerquean, and I always thought that that's where I belonged. That's where my heart was.
Could you both define what is home?
Home is where your Wi-Fi is.
A wife or a Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi. Well, home is where you feel most comfortable, I think. And that's why I returned from New York, is I felt like, I feel more comfortable here. And it was a very rational decision. It was very much like, okay, so what is it, what's in it for me, Am I living the quality of life, and so on? So it's not a patriotic decision that I made, right? And I can say it without being ashamed, because it was a very pragmatic decision to come back. And I think it's a valid decision, valid reason, because you feel comfortable here. That's where my home is.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
One of our poets, Robert Frost, said, "Home is where the heart is." And I think that really sums it up for me. It is like where you have that longing or that yearning to be. And so that's, and he also said, home is where they have to take you in.
Okay. A risky action, or let's say the most risky action that you've taken in your lives.
Well, I had my PhD here already, so I could live a comfortable, predictable life, let's say. But then I decided that economics is not what I'm particularly excited with, and I want to do a business degree, an MBA. So basically, we first, being pregnant, we went to Canada.
You were pregnant?
Canada, and that was the most risky thing that
not on that, but historic.
And this was a moment of confession, ladies and gentlemen.
I thought you weren't going to tell.
So, but no, really, me and my wife, who was pregnant, just to make it clear, we decided to live in Canada, and then we spent a year there and in Montreal when I was doing a research, and then I got accepted to my MBA program in Boston. And we came back to Armenia, sold our house, sold everything that we have, sold our car, and then we moved to America, and that was with a 4-month-old. And it was a very risky step, and you realize, when you go to IKEA and you realize that this, table that you just bought doesn't fit into the U-Haul that you have to, in 2 hours, return back. And you look at your phone and you you have no idea who to call because you don't know anybody, right? That's the risky thing, the risky action. And I think, it paid off.
Yeah, I think that's something that I think that we can that we have in common, Sergey. Every so often, maybe every 5 or 6 or 8 years, I somehow, looking back, change my career completely and go do something I have no idea how to do it. I knew how to be a dancer, but I was in college and I was a philosophy major. And then at a certain point I wanted to dance so much that the dean asked me if I would leave school because I was not quite as serious as I should have been. Like that. It's very ironic that I hang out and I do a lot of lecturing at universities. But went in the Army, got out of the Army. The last evening that I was in the Army, I was sitting watching television in an officers' club, in a non-commissioned officers' club. I was a sergeant. And I saw people dancing on television. And I literally went, I could do that. And I went home and I told my wife, we're moving to California and I'm going to dance on television. And she went, okay. Remember, she's very structured. And but she came with me, and literally I got a job, and she got a job, and my sister was also dancing on television. So, we did that. And I did that till I went over the hill, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And out of the blue, I started getting trained to lead seminars, transformational seminars. That was very, very difficult and very rigorous and very much of a challenge. And then somebody wanted me to come and teach in the Marshall School of Business at the University of Southern California. I know nothing about business. This is what I had. Then I realized I actually know a lot about business because I learned it in show business, and that's very cutthroat. So I would come in and I would say things, and the professors would go, where did that come from? And I'd say, I made it up. And they say, that's very controversial, but then they would start adopting it and writing about it and stuff like that. So everything that I've done, I've gone to the next kind of with my heart in my throat, definitely not knowing what I was doing and trying to figure it out as I did, but 5 different careers. And risk in all of those. But I believe this. I think there's three kind of ways that you go through life. I have three categories.
Yeah, here they come again.
Okay, here they come again. The first one is called auditing. People cherry pick and they audit as they go through life. I can tell that's not you. Okay. Then the second way is something called, I call it scrambling and whining. They go through, but they go, oh, you don't understand what I'm doing, and I'm suffering, and everything, and they scramble and they whine. And then there's a particular category of people, maybe in the top 3 or 4 percentile, that are what I call all in. They see it, and they go for it, and they make it, they figure it out, and they make it work. They stumble, they fall. Why do I like being in Armenia? Why do I like being in the Caucasus? Why do I like being in Central Asia? Because you're coming out of the whole Soviet experience, and you are, and there are people who are scrambling and whining, and there are people who are cherry picking and doing it the safe way, but the good ones are all in.
Yeah.
John, you mentioned your wife, and as I could tell from your story, she kept supporting you, throughout the way.
Well, she was.
She might be listening.
Okay, here's the deal with me and wives. I've had two. Okay, and so I was married to Kathy, very beautiful, very lovely, very sweet, very serene. But at a certain point, she wanted to go a certain way with her life, and she wanted to go back, and I wanted to develop a career. So we divorced. It was very pleasant, very, as pleasant as it could be. And then she remarried, and she married this fabulous guy, really a prince of a guy, better for her than me, actually. And then 6 years later, I married another woman, Lynn, completely different from Kathy. Okay, and at the end of our marriage, which was less than a year, I noticed that Lynn was saying exactly the same things to me that Kathy had been saying to me at the end of our marriage, in exactly the same tone of voice. And I realized...
So is it about you?
Oh, yeah. It was coaching. And I realized that Lynn did not call my first wife for coaching and everything, so I thought, it had to be about me. Now, we got divorced, and she married a great guy. So I realized that, my job in life
is to marry and get divorced.
Is to train women to find really great guys.
So did you stop there?
I stopped there, yeah.
After the realization.
I met a woman years later that I fell in love with in the first date. I fell in love with it. You know that one? And I called her up and I said, you have to go out with me again tomorrow night. She said, no, I can't. I have a date. And I said, break it. She said, no. And I said, oh, no. So we went out the next night. And after a while, she was, after the date, she was showing me her scrapbook and she was showing her family. And I had an out-of-body experience. And I was just watching her and I was watching myself, watching her. And I watched the words come out of my mouth. I'm in love with you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. It was like a thunderbolt hit me. And we were together for 7 years. Now, unfortunately, she passed away. But she was the love of my life. And so that's what kind of kept it going. She was a great one. They were all great.
So, speaking of all this, do you agree that behind every man there is behind every great man there is a great woman?
Yeah, unless he's gay.
Okay. No comment.
No, let's see, the way I heard it is behind every great man there's a great woman telling him what to do.
Well, yeah.
Coaching.
Yeah, coaching. We call it coaching.
The real coaches
stay
in the shadow.
I totally agree with that because it's a partnership.
Yes.
And partnerships we're not very good at partnerships. And that's part of the basis of my work is about I was a ballroom dancer, so it's about partnership like that. And leading and following. So not an accident. But no, I firmly am aligned on that idea of behind every person there's a great person.
Yes. So all of this, the coachings, the trainings, it's all about change, right? At the end of the day.
It is.
Is there anything you'd like to change about yourself?
About myself?
Sergey and John.
Well, I would definitely like to lose about 50 kilos. I love my life. I love my life. I've had an extraordinary life. If I die today, this is literally so. If I die today, I've had a beautiful, fulfilled life. But in this life, I'm an old fat guy, and I'm uncomfortable, and I'd like to lose weight.
What about you?
Well, for me, it's more real profession rather than this not very not very precise stuff that I do. So I would like to change that part, like more more mathematics in me.
Another question to both of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a leader? Who is the leader of your tribe? If there is.
The who I admire, who I look to. There are people that are living today, but it really goes to Gandhi. It really goes to people like Nelson Mandela. It really goes to Martin Luther King. It goes to John Kennedy. Those are, when I grew up, that was what it was. Winston Churchill was a great hero of mine. And in nowadays, I very much admire Richard Branson. I very much admire people who are up to something that is making a difference like that.
What
Like
about
yourselves.
Nah,
Sergey,
I promise you, I'm just kind of like playing the game, and trying to it's like there are people who are really I'm kind of a cheerleader.
Yes, but I think, and I can sense that you are making a change in people's lives.
Thank you. It's very
this is
sweet of
what
you to
we
say
are
that.
experiencing right here,
Yes.
right now.
Fooled another one.
So this is how you understand
Yes, I know.
that you've touched the person.
Yeah, no, it is. You get that feedback. You see, you look in the eyes. The eyes are the window to the soul.
Yes.
That's what Plato said. And it's like, it lights you up, and you can see it when a person comes alive. And there's nothing more beautiful
Yes.
because they've found themselves.
True.
Well, for me, it's I can't name a person.
Che Guevara. Ooh.
No, actually, now at this moment,
Yeah.
it's my people, and it's not a person. My wife and I, we were at the Republic Square, and we were looking at people, and each and every person with the enthusiasm that they have, and with the emotions that they experience, and so on, are we're the leaders, we're the revolutionaries, and it's the collective energy that is something that I admire now. So it changes all the time. It's people from TED Talks that I hear, or from the movie that I saw, or in real life, or my friend, and so on. Ken Robinson.
Yeah.
Ken Robinson, amazing. Now, I admire this guy who I'm going to invite too. Here, his name is Dima Zitzer. He's the education specialist. I think he's a guru also in education. And now I'm obsessed with the innovation in education. That's my new research. And there are 3 problems that I think there are in education. And
Categorize them for
Yeah,
us.
again.
I pray.
Categorizing freaks.
and again, like there are a lot of
Well, he
solutions.
wants to do the math thing.
Yes. So, different times, but I think what stays constant, there are 2 people that I admire most, are my 2 sons. And they're real leaders. Every day I learn from them, every day. The communication, the creativity, the openness, the sense of humor, amazing sense of humor. So many changes, and there is no single person, multiple people.
Okay.
Oh,
Unfortunately,
this
we
is a
don't
very
have enough
sad moment I'm
time.
going to announce right now, because we have only 1 minute left, and I think this is a record we're having here. This is the fastest show we ever had so far, because it lasted like 10 minutes. Or
So
we are so honored.
It's all relativity,
Yeah.
Einstein says when you're with a beautiful woman, an hour seems like a minute.
so
Thank
tomorrow at the American University,
Yes.
the time?
We start 10 o'clock.
10 a.m.
The registration starts 9:15. So 10 a.m. we start, and then we go for the entire day until 5:30
Yep.
p.m.
Buckle up.
Okay.
And so you still have some places
We
left.
got room
so
for you
yeah,
and your
okay.
friends.
Okay, great. So for those of you who don't want to lose this chance, go for it. This was Homesick at Home, our English-speaking show. We had the honor to welcome two wonderful people, two wonderful guests here, John King and Sergey Tantushyan. I would like to wish everybody at this moment peace, love, and love is for sure is in the air right now in Yerevan, in Armenia, and I'm pretty sure that it spreads all over the world. And this is not even pathetic because I think this is an absolute truth. This was Radio Van with you tonight, and have a great weekend.
Good night.
Good night.